Assalamu alaikum students, welcome to this session for lesson 10 of ENG 518. I am honestly so excited to guide you through this today. आज हम research sampling के बुनियादी उसूलों को discuss करेंगे. As university students diving into English language teaching, or ELT research, understanding exactly where your data comes from, it's absolutely foundational. It is the absolute bedrock of your success. So let's just jump right in.
Okay, here is a quick look at our roadmap for today. First up, where data comes from. Second, population and sampling. Third, the information-rich paradigm. Fourth, representative sampling. And finally, ethics in research.
So, I want to kick things off with a super fundamental question. Data kahan se aata hai? Seriously, think about it for a second. When you're reading a published research paper and the author is confidently stating a finding, how did they physically gather that information? The biggest macro problem every single researcher faces is scale. एक researcher पूरी दुनिया के हर इंसान या हर चीज़ तक रसाई हासिल नहीं कर सकता. You literally cannot access or study every single person in the universe to get your data. So, how on earth do we solve this massive logistical nightmare?
Well, that brings us to Section 1. Where does data actually come from?
And right into Section 2, population and sampling. Okay, let's clear up these two absolutely crucial terms that solve our scale problem. Population is the entire mass, the whole universe of your observation. Sample, on the other hand, is the specific chunk of data you actually draw to test your hypothesis. Let me give you a really simple everyday analogy. Think about cooking a massive pot of biryani. जब आप बिरयानी बनाते हैं, तो नमक चेक करने के लिए आपको पूरी देग खाने की जरूरत नहीं होती, right? A single spoonful, that is your sample, tells you literally everything you need to know about the whole pot, which is your population. It is just an incredibly efficient way to understand a massive quantity without having to consume the entire thing.
Applying this directly to your research, picture this. We have our massive target population, filled with diverse elements, let's call them A, B, C, D, E, and F. Through a rigorous methodological process called selection, we draw out a much smaller, manageable group. That's our sample. Now, for a lot of researchers, the ultimate goal here is to generalize what we learned from that tiny sample right back to the massive target population. We test the small group to figure out the reality of the big group. It's kind of like a magic trick, but it's pure science.
But that begs the question, how big should this spoonful of biryani actually be? Well, samples can vary wildly in size depending on exactly what you're trying to achieve. For example, Su in 2001 used a pretty robust sample of 122 students to spot broader trends. But Borg in 1998, his sample was literally just one single teacher. One. He wanted to dive deep into the nuanced psychology of that specific educator. So, a sample doesn't always mean hundreds of people. It can be a huge group or it can be a highly specific single subject.
Which perfectly tees up Section 3, the information-rich paradigm. This radical difference in sample sizes actually represents a massive fork in the road for researchers. The information-rich paradigm is basically your qualitative path. Over here, you are not trying to generalize your findings to the whole world. Not at all. Your goal is to uncover deep, rich, context-heavy information through really in-depth analysis. And because you're zooming in so closely to the details, your sample size is usually super small, just like Borg's single teacher study or Gardato's studying just 6 families. It's all about profound understanding and quality, not broad quantity.
Now for the other path, Section 4, representative sampling.
So what if you do want to generalize? Let's put these two paradigms side by side to really nail down the distinction. The information-rich paradigm is deep and qualitative. It's like carefully examining a single, fascinating gem under a microscope. But the representative paradigm, that is broad, quantitative, and generalizable. It's more like scanning a massive crowd from a balcony. In this representative approach, you want the absolute largest sample possible. The golden rule here is simple. The bigger the sample, the better you can confidently generalize your findings to the entire population.
And that brings us to our final, incredibly important topic, Section 5, ethics in research.
Look, whether your sample is just one teacher for an intimate qualitative study or 1,000 students for a massive quantitative survey, when your research involves living, breathing human beings, strict ethical rules apply. No exceptions. To understand why, we just have to look at history. Following some pretty major historical controversies involving human research, 2 massive milestones changed the landscape forever. First, the U.S. Commission in 1974, which was followed closely by the famous Belmont Report in 1979. These established the absolute, non-negotiable protections and rights for human research subjects that researchers worldwide strictly follow today. So, what exact steps must you take to protect privacy and rights before you begin sampling human participants for your own ELT research? First, informed consent. Your participants absolutely must know exactly what they are signing up for. Transparency is everything. Second, ensure voluntary participation. You can never force or coerce anyone into giving you data. Unki marzi se shamil honi chahiye, plain and simple. And third, assessment. You have to evaluate the risks and benefits to guarantee you are doing no physical, mental, or social harm to your subjects whatsoever.
All right, as we wrap up today's explainer, I want to leave you with a really critical question to chew on for your own future thesis projects. Ask yourself, क्या आपका research sample वाकई पूरी population की नुमाइंदगी करता है? Does it truly represent the whole? As you move forward, think carefully about your methodology. Decide if you need that information-rich deep dive or the broad representative paradigm, and never, ever forget your ethical duties. Thank you so much for hanging out and learning with me today, students. Happy researching, or Allah Hafiz.